Now, Penwith Radio, it's time for my first guest today. I am very excited. I've always wanted this lady on the show. I love how honest she is. I love how much fun she is. Let's say hello to the glamorous Miss Denise Welch. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very well.
Now, Denise, I've wanted you on the show for such a long time because I just think you're so much fun. I love that you say it.
It's not a pressure gig.
I love how you say things as they are, your honesty. But I've noticed one thing, you talk about your past life experiences to help other people in the same situations.
Well, I hope I do. You know, when you just said something there, you said, I tell it like it is. I actually hate that expression. Do you know why? Because people like Katie Hopkins say it.
Yes,
And what it normally means is an excuse to be rude. And I hope that I'm many things, Lewis, but I'm not. I hope I'm not rude and don't say things just to upset people. Do you know what I mean?
You're definitely not Katie Hopkins. You're too lovely.
God, no.
But I mean, you're very honest, and
I'm honest about my own. I'm very honest about my own experiences. And yes, if I can sort of highlight my mistakes and things that I've been through to help others, then yes, of course, I'm happy to do so.
But what I would love to ask you, because, I mean, you are in the limelight and a lot of the times you're in the newspapers, but how do you cope with the pressure of the newspapers putting a lot of your public life and stuff that might not necessarily be true in the front page of newspapers? Is that tough to deal with?
Well, it kind of comes with the territory to a degree. Although I feel that I've been a sort of the tabloid papers and magazines tend to sort of pick certain people that they make a bit of a target, because believe you me, I've done some things in my life, but there are people I know who've done a damn sight worse who've managed to remain completely untouched and unscathed, and people who are more in the public eye than me. And I accept it as part of the domain, especially when I put myself in the forefront of doing a show like Loose Women, where you are choosing, to put a lot of your life on record. And so therefore, I sort of became a bit of a, sort of target to a degree. But when the lies creep in, it's obviously very, very upsetting. And sometimes I did myself no favours, and it was obviously played out in public. But what happens now is that it's now 3 years nearly since my husband Lincoln and I gave up our party lifestyle. So we gave up alcohol and everything, and I don't even smoke anymore. I'm like Sandra Dee. And so I think that some of the tabloid magazines have almost gone into liquidation because they haven't got me misbehaving to put on their front covers. And so when it does upset me is that they will drag old stories out, because apparently my misery sells, which I was told by a well-known magazine. And so they will drag old stuff out to put on the front cover, where in fact what it says in the middle pages bears no resemblance to what it says on the cover. That is something you have to live with, but it's lessening now because I don't do Loose Women anymore. I'm back to being, to doing my acting, which is what I love to do. So I'm not, I'm a little bit of a hermit these days, and quite happy to be so.
I mean, that was one of my next questions, because, I mean, you've done everything from television presenting to stage work and reality TV, but would you say your main passion is acting? Because, I mean, you've done some incredible shows.
Oh, I mean, that's my job. That's what I trained at, that's what I've won my awards in, and that's what I do. I'm an actress, but we all know that, in this day and age, you sometimes have to diversify, and Loose Women was a sort of part of my life, which then became more of a part of my life. And but I think that in the melee of that, and then a sort of foray into reality television, the Denise Welch side of my life took over from my acting side. And I realized, last year that I was in danger of people forgetting that I was an award-winning actress. And I don't mean that to blow my own trumpet. I just mean that to say I'm actually not bad at that, and that's what I do for a job. And I understand that I'm in danger of people forgetting that. And so I left Loose Women, and I felt I'd been there in the glory days, and I'd done everything I could do there. And now I'm, back to being an actress again and working on projects, which is great.
I mean, personally, I'm 21 years old.
Are you?
And I've actually grown up watching you on TV. I mean, I remember you on Coronation Street, but one role I loved you in, which was the role of Steph Haydock in Waterloo Road.
Did you? I loved that part.
I mean, you had so much banter. The character had so much banter with the children. I mean, she wasn't necessarily the most greatest of teachers, but the kids really liked her.
Teacher, but she thought she was down with the kids, and she had a sort of a heart of gold, really. And I loved my on-screen relationship with Steph and Grantley Budgeon, with the wonderful Philip Martin Brown, who I think is in Corrie this week. Someone told me, but. We had a great on-screen relationship, and because we all started that show at the same time as well, it kind of grew with us, and the writers started to write for us and for our strengths and stuff, and that was 5 series. I was great, and I loved that. I loved Waterloo Road. I mean, I've got something out of most of the roles I've played, really. And, there's some things I regret. I regret my Big Brother experience. I'm a massive, ardent fan of it. I regret doing it, but I'm obsessed with watching it.
I mean, it's funny you say that, because Nadia, who was recently evicted, said exactly the same thing. She said, she's a big fan of the show, but totally regrets going in the house.
It very much depends on who you're in there with, and Nadia had the same kind of, well, not the same kind of house, but she had a completely different experience, but it was obviously quite traumatic for her, and mine was for me. And I was also at not a very good place in my life, and the whole timing of it was completely wrong for me. And unfortunately, for everything that I've done good, in my life, and for every part I've played that I was good in, unfortunately, that celebrity bloody Big Brother thing seems to keep cropping up all the time, and it drives me mad. But it is what it is, and I was in it, and in a way it was a sort of a catalyst to be turning my life around. So and now I'm incredibly happy in my personal life, and incredibly happy sober, and so in a way maybe some good came out of it.
I mean, on a plus side, the public really got behind you, and you actually won the show, which is, you've got to be overwhelming that people picked up the phone.
It was, but then again, Katie Hopkins has a chance of winning, so maybe mine was a bit of a hollow victory. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm very grateful for the fact that the public got behind me, and I just hope that I get a bit on my high horse about it on Twitter about Katie Hopkins, because I don't like people who are nasty for the sake of it, and I don't want her to win.
What do you think about Perez? I mean, how would you cope with someone?
I can't stand him. I think he's been an incredible housemate, as has Katie Hopkins as well. But I can't stand either of them, and I think that their punishment should be that they should be locked up in a house together somewhere for 6 months. And I think that Nadia was incredibly, to align herself to him so hugely, she seemed to be completely blinkered.
Yes.
When it came to Perez, and that was obviously her downfall in there. But as I say, without Perez, it would have been a very different show. And I've been glued to it, and still am. And it's but although I can't stand Perez, I actually think that Katie Hopkins is a more horrible person. I can't stand her.
It was lucky she's not in your series.
It's very lucky she's not in my series. I don't think there would have been any love lost there. I'm sure she thinks exactly the same about me.
Now, what I would love to ask you is, obviously you were in Coronation Street, and your character became one of the the big favourites. But what was it like to be in such a big show? Because I can imagine the schedule was quite tough.
It was. The schedule was incredibly tough, and it was every day, and it's relentless, and they work so hard. When you're in something like Coronation Street, it's like you're making a movie every week. I mean, you're doing so many hours of television, and I'm not going, poor souls. There's far worse jobs, but in order to turn out the standard of performance that they do, I don't think there should ever be awards for the best actress and the best soap actress. It doesn't matter what you're in.
Yeah.
You're a good actress or you're not. And so, I had a lot of fun in Coronation Street. I would say that I loved it for 2 years, and not so much for the latter 2 years. And my character was a very strong character, and I went in a fantastic storyline, bearing in mind, so many people were watching it then. Natalie's marriage to Des Barnes was watched by something like 21 million people, like a third of the country, But I loved it, but after 4 years, I felt that my time, I'd done my time, and I'd always been motivated by change in my career, and it was time to move on. But it's an incredible, even though someone like me who was in my late 30s when I went into it, and I'd kind of done Spender and Soldier, so I was kind of used to being recognised a bit, but nothing prepares you for the amount of people that were watching it in those days. How your life changes almost overnight, So I used to get very protective of the young'uns who were coming in, whose life would change, and there didn't seem to be much of a safety net for them.
Would you ever go back if approached?
Oh God, I mean, it's 14 years since I left, and I never look back on jobs before, I mean, I don't know. I've never asked to go back, and they've never asked me to go back. If they said, we've got a great storyline for Natalie, maybe after 14 years, maybe it might be fun to go back for a storyline.
Yeah.
But I quite like the fact that I'm doing different things now, and I quite enjoy that. But I would never close the door on it. But when my friend Bev Callard used to come out, there was always a reason for Liz McDonald to go back in, because she had family in there. Whereas Natalie, they'd kind of have to invent a reason for her to go back, because she has no connection with anybody in there anymore.
So it'd have to be a storyline that's quite big to bring her back to the cobbles.
There would have to be a really, what would be the reason for her to go back, because she doesn't have any connection with anybody. Although someone told me recently they thought that Natalie still owned half the garage. So I don't know, maybe there is something there.
Now, what's next for you now? Because I know that you sound very happy and you're very content with how things are. So what's next for Denise Welch now? What project?
I'm currently filming, I've got a day off today, I'm currently filming a new comedy series for BBC Two.
Right.
And it's great because I'm filming in Manchester, but I'm a Geordie.
Oh.
So I'm playing someone from Newcastle, but I'm able to come home at night, and it's a new comedy, and it's a transgender comedy. The lead character is a transgender character. More than that, I can't say.
Okay.
They're all just online, but it's a comedy, and I love my character, and I'm thrilled to be working with such a great cast, and with Tiger Aspect for BBC Two. And I'm not sure when we're transmitting yet, but it's great to be doing what I'm doing.
Denise, it's so nice to hear you be so happy, and it's so nice to talk to you, because I've wanted you on for such a long time. Because I admire your honesty. I love your work. Like I said, I've kind of grown up when I was ill in school. I used to kind of put a sickie, and I would watch Loose Women, and I was mesmerised by your glamorous and
Oh, bless you. That's so nice.
So it's been an absolute pleasure.
I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to talk to you anytime. When the show comes out, you'll be on my list of the first people to call.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, darling. Thanks so much.
Take care. Thank you, Denise. Bye-bye.
Bye.